there we go. Surfer and content writing. This is the natural direction we took from gathering the data about SERPs, about competitors, about what's going on in the search results, to make it easier to understand and to make it easier to utilize right away. That's why we built the content editor tool. And today we will focus 100% on the content editor tool. So you know all the features, you know where does the data come from, and so on and so forth. And I will just start with the short introduction on the keyword research that we touched last week. So we already know that the content planner tool helps us with finding topics that we should consider using as the ideas on our website to build the topical relevance in specific industry. In this case, it is invoicing systems. So we can click on these buttons that we like and create the content editors, remembering about turning on the NLP feature. But what's the most important, and it is strongly related to the content creation process, is the information that every single tile you see here is a separate URL, is a separate article that will tackle all of the keywords that are gathered within the group. So don't try to overthink it. One tile, one article, one URL, move to the next one. Don't try to split it. We build it this way so Google kind of pushed us into this direction. So we like queried Google a lot to find out which keywords should be ranked together and which keywords should be split. And that's the best decision we could make. You see on the screen, and trying to change it is like at your risk. I wouldn't recommend doing it at all. So let's move on to the content editor itself. But before we do so, I just wanted to emphasize on choosing the right keyword, because you don't always want to create a content planners for the whole content strategies. Sometimes you may have the idea already that you just want to build one single article about the specific topic. And once we know about clusters and we know that Google prefer a bit more than just one single keyword being covered within the content that we provide on the website, I will just show you that you can create multi-keyword analysis in the content editor input, not only in the content planner, but also inside the content editor input. So you basically type the first keyword, keyword 1, hold shift and hit enter, and keyword 2. And what you see on the right hand side are two buttons. The first one will create two separate content editors. So if you want to create a bunch of content editors in bulk against one keyword, that's the button you click. But it is better if you create one content editor based on 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 keywords, because this way Surfer will take the search results from all of these keywords, will find out which search results perform the best among the whole set of keywords. So if there is a page that ranks for all of the keywords but on the position 3, 4, 5, but there's another URL that rank just for one keyword but on the position first, the one that ranks better on the whole set of keywords will be scored higher than the one that ranks just for a single keyword. And with that logic in place, thanks to multi-keyword analysis, Surfer is able to provide you guidelines that are the most suitable for the whole cluster, for the whole set of keywords. And this is the way to go. And what's most important, it will cost you the same single credit. So there's no point of providing here just a single keyword. It's a good idea to provide 2, 3, 5, maybe even 10 keywords to not only get better benchmarks that perform great across a variety of topics, but also more questions scraped from the people also ask. So, as we are on the questions already, I will just quickly show you the difference between a single keyword content, which is, oops, let me adjust it, inventory software for small businesses. And we have the guidelines, we have a brief, and we have topics and questions. Only for questions, that's the default people also ask segment. But if I open the other one that is created based on 12 keywords and moving to the brief, I will find much more questions scraped from people also ask. And with this amount of questions, you are able to not only prepare a quality FAQ section, but you are always able to find out what kind of information people are looking for while searching for inventory software for small business. It will make you sure that you answer the right questions inside your content and build the required trust from a lot of readers, because you will satisfy many of them at once. So, that being said, let's take a look at the whole interface, because we have a lot of things to cover today. So, writing in content editor should be like started at the very beginning of the content creation process. Like I heard a few times already that some people tend to create content in like separate place offline and so on, and then they put it into the content editor to make sure it is SEO optimized. And this is not the most fortunate approach to creating SEO optimized content. And why is that? Most likely because you end up with a target length of content that does not contain words and phrases that should be included inside. And you end up with uh, being pushed to add more and more paragraphs explaining definitions, things, entities, and so on that you were missing. So it kind of doubles the job, because you end up deleting some pieces of content that are relatively fluff, not containing those required words and phrases, to make space for the definitions that are required. And you shouldn't treat the content editor as a tool that will allow you to optimize. Of course, it can be used this way if you have the content already, and we will touch it later. But you should consider it as a place where you start the content creation process, because this way it is much easier to put all of these, or as many as possible of these words and phrases, into the content in the right hierarchy, as queries on the keywords on the top are the most important. Of course, it's a good idea to add a bit more context to the whole article by adding those guys at the very bottom, but you should definitely focus on these at the top, because they are the most important terms in here. But let's take a look at the score above. The score is a measurement that will analyze your content on the fly and will tell you whether it is SEO optimized already or not. And you should aim for the score being above 65, so it jumps on this green segment. The higher it is, the better. That's obvious. But if you are think about what's the best uh, value to time spent ratio, I would say that would be something around 70-75 score. Like polishing it up to 100, it can take a lot of time, and most likely it will be uh, equally time consuming to create 2 or 3 articles on 75 plus than a single article that is 100%. And recently, we added the new version, improved version of Content Score that brings a little bit more of clarity of what's going on inside the score. And it is here, the details. So when you click on the details, you will find out 4 smaller scores that will contribute to the one score that is calculated for the whole content. And when it comes to the structure, it will be about the content length, it will be about use of images, paragraphs, and headings. So the content is mm, structured similarly to averaged out competitors. That's one segment. Next segment is headings, and it is not only about using headings, but having H1 that contains uh, the main focus keyword, or if you are using terms to use like these guys or these guys inside the subheadings, it will also contribute to the score. So don't try to blindly create headings just for sake of satisfying the need of at least 63 headings in this situation. Make sure that these headings actually carry value, uh, that these headings include these words and phrases that can be found at the top of the list. This way, you will make the heading score go up. And regarding the terms and the NLP, these two segments contribute to using terms that are suggested or NLP entities that are suggested inside your article. The more of them you will have, the higher will be the score. So, first is the structure, second is the headings and the headings content. Third and fourth are about using words and phrases that your competitors are using that are recognized and named entities that are the most meaningful phrases to the content. And um, I should actually um, tell you about it slightly earlier, but let's do it now. Where does these guidelines come from? This is pretty important. So Surfer, for all of these queries analyzed, will check what are the search results ranking in Google from a given location, and we will check their content and find words and phrases that are meaningful. So you see them here. We will check how these terms are used on the competitor's content by providing you examples of use, like specifically how someone used inflow inventory or business or inventory management or enterprise resources planning, whatever it is. You are able to do the research about the specific terms right away. So it comes directly from competitors that are taken to the analysis. So not only words and phrases, but also examples and their structure. This is fairly important to emphasize at the very beginning. Like, these guys are not coming out of the blue. These guys are coming from pages that rank high and compete with you on this particular keyword or set of keywords if it is multi-keyword analysis. And let me show you what else you can do with this list, because there is also a search. So if you have a specific topic in mind and you want to find this one term that will be a match, I can, for example, search inventory, as this is one of the most important terms in here, and I will get only terms that include inventory. If it's about features, I can find like inventory management features and inventory features, not so many, like maybe product. No, not really. But in general, you get the idea. You can find terms that will include some specific elements inside. Besides of that, you can filter it out. Like right now, you see that there is like small business inventory software used 0 times, but the suggested range is between 1 and 2. So if it feels overwhelming for you, so you don't want to see the ranges, you can turn them off by clicking here, those 2 dots, and show the ranges off. So it will only tell you what's the minimum value of the term to be used to turn it green. What's also cool in here is that you can hide optimized and partially optimized and not optimized terms. At this point, none is optimized, so they will like be gone, but I will just show them and hide optimized terms. Right now there is no term that is already optimized, but the inventory systems should be used only once, so I can add it and it's gone because I've hidden optimized terms. If I show it, you will see that it's green. So this is pretty cool feature related to customizing your experience with Surfer's content editor. But in general, you should trust what we display here at the very beginning. But sometimes you may have a situation when you don't have a budget for creating 5,000 words long article, and that's totally fine. So you can click this cog icon to get to the settings. And it will all start with reviewing competitors. So you'll find their content score, their authority, length, domain traffic, and the URL traffic. These guys are selected based on their content score. So as you can see, only pages with super high content score are taken to the analysis. This way you will only compare yourself to the best pages, to the pages that have the best content. So the default setting is pretty all right. Yet it will be a good idea to review it from time to time if you feel like you may be dealing with competitors that have different business model. For example, if you deal with a page that like you are a blog and sometimes you compete with e-commerce, there will be no point in comparing yourself to e-commerce if you are a blog, so you can turn it off. In this case, all of the guidelines come from the blogs, so we can definitely go for it. Actually, this one is a home page, so we can consider getting rid of it. That's actually a good example. So we end up with 4 pages being the best. So clear clear affiliate intent. That definitely tells us that we will be reviewing different inventory management tools for small businesses. Okay, but let's get to the length and changing, customizing the structure. So here you have the content structure, and this is extremely important because the guidelines have the target length, which is in this case almost 6,000. And the usage and the frequency of terms will be calculated for the target length. And if you decide, okay, I will write only 3,000 words long article, but I won't change the target length. So Surfer will think that your goal is 6,000. So the guidelines for the densities will be 6,000. And if you don't plan to write 6,000, please change the length to the length you plan. Because this way, Surfer will know, okay, the content is not getting any longer. So I have to change the densities to keep it on the same level as it was 6,000 words long article. So you can basically use these arrows, or you can type, or you can refresh, restore the original if you feel like you made a mistake. Below this, you will find terms to use, and basically it will contain all of the terms that are selected by default to be displayed in Content Editor. We find roughly 300, slightly over 300 terms in general. And the most important information is that those on the top are the most important. You can, of course, you can find some cool keywords below, but there is this middle ground between overwhelming the writer and providing the most valuable guidelines that are not only the most valuable but also complete. So we found that the middle ground is around 80 terms, depending on the length. If the content is super short, we will show less terms to include. But in general, for long form content, you will find around 80. So you can, of course, select those that you like, and they will be added to the analysis. And what else you can do is blacklisting or marking them as headings. So they will be found in the words and phrases suggested to be used in headings. That can be done manually here. Like I just clicked and I will be able to find these terms in headings. I can use even shortcuts like H and boom. H and boom. I can use the space bar. Include, include, include. Or I can also blacklist some terms. If there's a term that you don't like, and if there's a term that keeps appearing in the content editor guidelines, you can blacklist it and it will land on the list of ignored terms. Like I have a list of 6 terms, no, slightly more, but these terms I ignore personally, and they appear as already excluded in these guidelines here. So this is pretty cool. You see some of these excluded are at the very bottom, and as you can see, the lower we go, the less relevant terms we get. So it is not any better if you include all of the 300. The reason we display the whole 300 is to give you a choice, but the default setting of 80 is more than enough to create the content that is SEO optimized and provides the context and so on. But you are also able to add your own keywords here. So you can click here on these 3 dots and bulk import terms, paste them here, and they will be added to the list as custom terms that you've provided. Okay, let's move on. Topics and questions. It all starts with the people also ask questions, and this is actually the best place to find the context about what should I write about. So these guys are included automatically, but you can also review competitors' headings and surfer suggestions like questions about inventory systems, how to track inventory, and so on. So you can, well, these that make sense, you can add them. And the last but not least, is the notes section where you can communicate to your writer the goals of specific article. But I guess it took me way too long on the customization, as it is not the place that you should spend the most of your time. All right, so we have the score explained, we have the customization. Let's take a look at the brief. But unfortunately, we got slightly clogged with the newest API that we released. So if you will jump on the content editors right away, this webinar, it will take a little bit for this outline to load. So I will just take one of these keywords that I have already analyzed. So we have this article about how to prepare for Google's Core Web Vitals update. Pretty vital topic these days. So we can definitely take a look at this content and this keyword as a potential optimization task, because we already have 500 words and we see that it is too short, you don't have enough headings, no images, no paragraphs, four paragraphs only. So we can definitely improve it. And let's take a look at the brief now, because the brief now consists from outline builder, notes section, competitors section, and topics and questions. The most important part is here in the outline builder. So I'll just make some space. And let's take a look at the H1 proposed H1s. So these H1s comes from your competitors, so you have to tweak them. But the content below will be more or less unique. And where does it come from? It's basically coming from a summarization of the content that is between the heading that is before and after. So, well, between two headings, we have this H1 preparing for Google Page Experience Update, and we have some content, and then we have probably H2 or a different type of heading. So the whole content in between will be analyzed by some AI algorithms, and then it will be summarized to convey this key information about the topic. So basically, like, it is not something that you can literally take and publish, but it will be something that will allow you to do the research much faster. So it's like the best TLDR you can imagine, and you can build on top of that. You can add your own style, you can add a little bit of content and optimization to what you see here, like extend it, for example, using the conversion AI that I will show you in a couple of moments too. But in general, you are able to create an outline for the article in minutes. So let's take a look at the H2s. What are most important core web vitals? Let's take it. Next one. Test your page. Let's do it. Why they are important? So we got it already. Tools to make sure you are ready. What happens to AMP? Core web vitals are features you want. Oh yeah, this is kind of fluffy. Let's take it. Potential quick fixes. Definitely I want it. Where do I find in Google Search Console? That's obvious. What can you do to protect? Of course, this is a good one. What are they? What are they? Preparing, how to measure. We have already, but we have alternatives, right? What are they exactly? Why they're important? We have it already. These are just different proposed H2s. Let's take a look at H3s. Maybe we can go. Oh, yeah. So we have specific metrics: FID, CLS, and LCP. Where do I find? So let's find a place where we can put it. Okay, so these are the most important: first input delay, cumulative layout shift, and largest contentful paint. So as you can see, I've already created, like, I've added to the content 1000 words, and my score is 63 already. So if I spend a little bit more time on using these outline builder, I can fairly easy increase the length to the target length, and my only task would be to edit the content, so I don't have to think about it. I don't have to write it specifically in a niche that I don't understand. I can just make sure it is entirely original. It has no uh, cut sentences in half and so on, like any duplicate, like iReporter and iReporter comes up. Just get rid of the brand and so on. So it will be all about editing work, not like writing from the ground up. How cool is to start the content creation process with 500 or 1000 words on the on, on the draft already, instead of having to put this first sentence, like breaking yourself and making to write it. It's much easier to start with some sort of skeleton you can build on top, and the research is done. So you can speed up content writing process by far, especially if you are connected to conversion AI, which is definitely a great idea for people wanting to use this outline feature, because with conversion AI, that will be fairly easy to expand, rephrase, and change the content even more, uh, to make it creative, to make it fun, to make it specific style, without actual writing. So we have the questions, the outline, and the brief covered. I will just tell you again, multi-keyword analysis will give you more questions to include in the content. So more context, definitely consider using this multi-keyword analysis. And when it comes to existing content optimization, you can, of course, you can copy and paste the content to the content editor. But as far as I know, most of the pages on the internet are on WordPress. And with the Surfer's Chrome extension for a content editor, we are able to allow you to optimize your existing articles inside your WordPress. And as you can see, I've got an article in the Gutenberg, and I've got the Surfer sidebar on the right hand side, and I see the words and phrases that should be included. I got the brief, I got those competitors, topics and questions, guidelines, the score, and like literally everything I need to optimize my article. So if you are working with WordPress websites, that will be a huge advantage to get rid of copying, pasting issues, and moving the content back and forth, to conserve time, to make it efficient, to keep the styles ready, to avoid copying and pasting from these boxes that can confuse, and I know it can be confusing. So in general, when it comes to existing content optimization, if you have a website on WordPress or on Webflow, on Shopify, all of these three will integrate with Surfer's content editor. Unfortunately, not every single WordPress builder will be available, yet we cover the most popular classic editor and the Gutenberg, as well as some visual builders like Elementor or the Oxygen builder. So you can definitely take advantage of this extension. I will just show you where to find it, like surferseo.com and features and content editor extension, and it's here. And it not only allow you to integrate with WordPress, but also with Google Docs. So I feel like I missed it, but let's click on the share button, because it is essential. Of course, you won't be able to write 1000 articles on your own. You have to outsource some of your work or build a team, or well, whatever. So the sharing button is extremely important here. So Surfer will create a public link that anyone can access and write content for you, and you will see the progress of what's going on. And then they will see this done button. They can click and you will see, okay, this article is done. I can take it to publication. But I mentioned the Google Docs intentionally, because below this public link there is also create new Google document button that will allow you to create an empty Google Docs that have the sidebar inside. So you can actually create SEO optimized content using Surfer's content editor technology inside Google Docs, benefiting from cooperation, from comments, versioning, and every single feature that Google Docs provides. So it will definitely help you if your processes include Google Docs. So we have these integrations covered, but the last but not least is the conversion AI. So with the long form assistant, which is a tool that will expand and rephrase and basically allow you to change and assist with artificial intelligence to your content writing processes, you can have the content editor inside, and it will allow you to create the content even faster. And imagine that you have a brief functionality. So you take the content from the brief, paste it on the right hand side, and rephrase, expand, and make sure that these guys are used inside the content. You are home, and you can produce like dozens of articles a day that will be relatively good quality considering the pace of their creation. So definitely check it out. These guys from Conversion AI are really cool, and their product is not only this. It will allow you to create ads and some headings and outlines and a bunch of other things that I can't even remember. They have dozens of templates that allow you to, like, well, Google My Business posts, YouTube outlines, some SEO stuff like titles, descriptions, uh, stuff for the Pinterest, and like it will allow you to create testimonials, bios, and like bunch of things that I can't even uh, name. So basically, if you want to learn more about the conversion AI, just watch one of the webinars I hosted, one with Austin and the other with Dave. Just check it out. It's explained there how it works. Uh, but definitely, if you don't know it, check it out. So, what else is there regarding the content editor? I believe that uh, I didn't mention how to write content with server that ranks in Google. In general, the answer is relatively simple. Basically, use the content editor. That's it. Because you will be able to find these benchmarks, you will get the words and phrases, it will be checked on the fly, and you will be sure that it is SEO optimized. And your task is to make the content include these words and phrases and sounding great for your potential customers.